Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're looking for a shortcut to, really getting to grips with the scaffolding that holds regulated companies together, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to skip the big mission statements and go straight into the operational core, the roles and procedures of corporate governance that absolutely must be followed.
That's right.
We've drawn on a very specific set of sources for this deep dive. It's a specialized look at key company officers, and it's specifically informed by the requirements and structure of the ACCA LW-ENG syllabus.
Right, so these aren't just theories.
Exactly. These are the strict rules you really need to know.
And our mission today is pretty targeted. We need to go beyond just the job descriptions and really explore the roles, the strict appointment mechanisms, and the powers of two very specific, highly regulated positions.
The company secretary and the auditor?
Precisely. But the real insight, and I think where we need to spend the most time, lies in the rigorous frameworks that govern their exit. Yeah. That means dissecting the complex, mandatory steps for an auditor's resignation. Or, and this is crucial, their forced removal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these rules are kind of the structural insurance policy for market integrity. They're the guardrails.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's unpack this. And let's start with that often underappreciated figure, the administrative powerhouse, the company's secretary or CS. When people think of high-powered corporate roles, they usually jump to CEO or CFO. But the company secretary is, well, they're essential, even if they're often behind the scenes. Is their core function purely administrative, or is there some real statutory weight there?
Oh, there is significant weight. They are far more than just administrative support. The CS functions as the internal compliance expert and the administrative backbone of the company.
So the keeper of the rules.
Exactly. In the context of our source material, the role is defined by really significant statutory duties. They are essentially the gatekeeper of legal risk. Their responsibilities include making sure the company adheres to all statutory obligations, particularly under company law. This means maintaining those vital statutory registers.
The lists of members, directors, charges over assets, all that.
All of that. And handling all the mandatory filings with the registrar. They are the institutional memory and the first line of defense against any procedural breaches.
So they're not making the big strategic decisions, but they're making sure those decisions are recorded and executed legally.
Precisely. They manage the company's entire administrative flow. So organizing board meetings, circulating the right papers, and most importantly, ensuring the minutes correctly reflect the legal decisions that were made. Without the CS, the board risks operating in a complete legal vacuum.
And what about their appointment and their powers? If they are serving the board by ensuring compliance, who actually gives them their mandate?
Well, the general principle is that the directors appoint the company secretary. Which immediately creates a fascinating internal tension, doesn't it?
It does.
The CS owes duties to the company as a whole, ensuring compliance, yet they're appointed and often managed by the very directors whose adherence to procedure they have to police.
That is a critical duality. So their operational loyalty is to the directors who hired them, but their legal accountability, that lies with the company itself and the regulations.
And their powers flow from this. They act as the primary contact for compliance matters. They often sign statutory documents. And while they don't have the executive power of a director, their authority really comes from their deep legal knowledge.
Right.
And their capacity to validate the legitimacy of all corporate processes. They hold significant influence, but it's through their expertise.
That's a great way to frame it. The expert with influential non-executive power. Okay, let's pivot now from that internal compliance role to the external check. This feels like a fundamental shift.
It is, from internal management to external accountability.
Right. We're moving to the independent watchdog, the auditor. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The auditor is absolutely indispensable. The entire structure of corporate integrity rests on them. Their role is established in law specifically to provide assurance to the shareholders and, the broader market.
So public confidence in financial markets really hinges on the auditor's work. How does the syllabus detail this independent role? And why is that independence so sacrosanct?
Well, the auditor's duty is singular, and it's paramount to report on the company's financial statements.
Okay.
Specifically, they must provide an independent opinion on whether those financial statements give a true and fair view of the company's financial position and performance.
And that's not just a rubber stamping exercise.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's a legal affirmation that carries massive professional liability. and their independence is protected because they aren't appointed by the executive management.
That's the key.
Instead, an auditor is appointed by the shareholders, the true owners of the company, usually through a resolution at a general meeting.
So although directors might appoint the first auditors or fill a gap, that ultimate mandate has to come from the members.
Exactly. It reinforces their detachment from the day-to-day decisions they are supposed to be auditing.
And that separation is essential. I mean, if the auditor is checking the work of the CFO and the board, they can't be beholden to those same people for their job.
Correct.
But to effectively challenge the board, they need real enforceable authority. So what kind of teeth does the law actually grant them?
What's fascinating here is that the law grants them truly expansive, non-negotiable powers.
Yeah.
And they're designed to overcome any managerial resistance.
Okay, like what?
First and foremost, the auditor has the right to access the company's books, records, and accounting documents at all times.
At all times, not just when invited.
Exactly. This isn't a limited invitation. It's an unlimited right to walk in and demand any piece of information they feel they need.
So they don't have to wait for management to give them some neat summary. They can go right to the raw source data.
Right. And beyond just the documents, they have the right to require information and explanations from any officer of the company.
Any officer.
Any officer. That includes directors, the company secretary, anyone they deem necessary for the performance of their audit.
Let's put that into a practical context. So if an auditor is reviewing, say, a really complex transaction and the CFO gives an explanation they don't find satisfactory, the auditor can then legally demand an explanation from, I don't know, the finance director's assistant or the department head who processed the invoice.
They absolutely can. If the auditor believes the CFO or a director is being deliberately evasive or obstructive, they can use their statutory right to go around them.
Wow.
And demand answers from other officers. If anyone denies them this access or fails to provide the info, it is a serious legal breach. And that has to be reflected in their report.
Oh, I see.
Or, in extreme cases, they might be compelled to resign and file that statement of circumstances we're about to discuss. That power, the power to demand information from anyone, anytime, is their ultimate regulatory leverage.
That power is the mechanism that ensures the auditor can't just be stonewalled. It ensures their report is based on their own findings, not just management's carefully curated story.
Precisely.
Okay, so now we move to the most highly regulated part of this whole equation. We've established the auditor's independence, but that independence is tested most severely when the relationship between the auditor and the board breaks down.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Right. So if company management decides they don't like the auditor's tough questions, or if the auditor finds an issue they just can't resolve, what is the mandatory regulatory framework for their exit?
This is the very crux of corporate governance regulation,
Right.
And it is intentionally complex. The whole process is designed to prevent boards from quietly getting rid of an auditor who threatens to reveal some uncomfortable truths.
It's a defensive mechanism for the market.
It is. And we have to look at two distinct scenarios, each with its own set of mandatory process steps. There's removal, where the company, usually driven by the board, forces the auditor out. And then there's resignation, where the auditor chooses to leave. The regulations make sure neither process is simple.
Let's start with removal. That sounds like the adversarial scenario, the one where the regulations have to work hardest to protect the auditor.
It is. Since the auditor is appointed by the shareholders, they can only be removed by the shareholders. But it has to happen through a very specific and deliberately slow process.
Okay.
The procedure for the removal of an auditor requires what's called special notice of the resolution to be given to the company ahead of a general meeting.
And what does special notice practically mean for our listener?
It means a standard board decision just isn't enough. The company must receive notice of the intention to propose the removal resolution a specific period ahead of the meeting. Typically, it's 28 days.
28 days, that's a long time.
It is. It's a mandatory lead time, a cooling-off period. It's designed to prevent an immediate ambush dismissal. It signals to shareholders and regulators that a crucial external check is about to be terminated.
And what happens then?
Well, once the company gets this special notice, they have a legal obligation to immediately send a copy of that notice to the auditor in question.
Ah, so that triggers the auditor's right to defend themselves.
Exactly. The law doesn't just mandate a process. It mandates the opportunity for the auditor to defend their position to the ultimate authority, the shareholders, before any vote happens.
I see.
The auditor has the right to make written representations, a formal statement to the company about their proposed removal,
Mm.
and they can often require the company to circulate that statement to every single shareholder who's eligible to vote.
So it forces the board's hand.
It does. It ensures the shareholders hear both sides of the story.
Yeah.
So if a powerful board is trying to dismiss an auditor because they exposed, I don't know, questionable revenue recognition,
Yeah.
the auditor has a regulated platform to inform the actual earners, the shareholders, exactly why they're being fired. That's a monumental protection.
And that's not all, is it?
No. Furthermore, the auditor has the right to attend the general meeting where the removal is being voted on, and, crucially, they have the right to speak at that meeting.
So they can make their case in person.
They can provide an oral explanation, a defense of their conduct, or the reasons they believe the removal is inappropriate. The rigor of these procedures ensures removal cannot be secretive or swift. It has to be transparent.
And the auditor must have a voice. That's the mechanism that protects independence against hostile management. Okay, so let's turn to the second scenario. The auditor choosing to resign.
Right.
Even when the auditor initiates the exit, the process is still just as defined. Why are the specific procedures for resignation so stringent? It seems like they should just be able to walk away.
Well, the rules for resignation are stringent for the very same reason, to protect the market from silent corporate misdeeds.
Ah, of course.
If an auditor walks away because they suspect fraud or because the company won't give them access to information, the market absolutely needs to know that a red flag has just been raised.
So how does that work procedurally?
If an auditor chooses to resign, they must formally deposit a written notice of resignation at the company's registered office. It has to be signed and dated. But the crucial procedural element is the accompanying documentation.
It's not just a letter saying, I quit, is it?
Absolutely not. This is the regulatory safety net we were talking about. The resignation notice must be accompanied by a statement of circumstances connected with the resignation or a statement that there are no such circumstances.
And that statement of circumstances, that's the alarm system.
It is the ultimate regulatory disclosure mechanism. If the auditor is leaving because of disagreement over accounting treatments or internal control weaknesses or managerial evasion, that information has to be documented in that statement.
And what happens to the statement?
The company is then legally obliged to send a copy of it to all relevant parties. That includes the Registrar of Companies and potentially other regulatory bodies. This procedure legally forces a potential conflict or disagreement into the public record.
So an auditor can't just quietly walk away from a troubled audit.
No, they must explain why. And that prevents a silent exit that could obscure serious corporate issues from the shareholders and the market.
That distinction, the obligation to file a statement detailing the circumstances, that feels like the key takeaway for anyone studying these rules. It transforms a private dispute into a mandatory public disclosure.
Yes, that's what safeguards market integrity.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? We've seen that corporate governance is really built on these two pillars. You have the company secretary, the internal compliance expert appointed by management, and then the auditor, the external watchdog appointed by shareholders.
And we've detailed the rigorous procedural hoops surrounding the auditor's exit. These formal steps, the special notice for removal, the rights of representation, the mandatory statement of circumstances for resignation, they are not just administrative details.
No, they're the whole point.
They are the mandated mechanisms that guarantee checks and balances survive even when trust breaks down between a company's leadership and its financial verifier. Understanding the precise application of these steps is essential. The value lies in recognizing that these procedures act as a legal barrier to protect the auditor's functional independence.
That procedural rigor is what keeps the system honest, at least on paper.
Which, this raises an important question that builds on the details we've just covered.
Go on.
Given the strict rules governing auditor removal, particularly the auditor's right to address the shareholders directly, how effectively does this regulation truly ensure independence when conflicts arise between a powerful company board and its financial watchdog?
That's a great question.
Does the legal difficulty of removal automatically translate to practical independence in the boardroom?
That tension, the reality of corporate power versus the regulation designed to check it, that's the heart of governance, isn't it? It's a great thought to mull over as you integrate this knowledge. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the mechanics of corporate officer roles and the strict procedures that protect financial integrity.
My pleasure.
We hope this was a valuable shortcut to mastering these crucial, highly regulated roles. We'll catch you next time.